Typical day, I would like to say there is a typical day.
The radios are always busy, the phones are always busy. The multitasking in the OCC is to the 10th power.
305, good afternoon. You are clear for the West Ladder and back to storage track 2, Charlie and Couple.
Pretty much what an air traffic controller is for airplanes is what we do for trains.
He's supposed to be on 21. I'm going to have him hold for his time out here at Gov Center.
Think you could cut in maybe around 5th and Sheridan?
We're 911 for bus, so it's just like you calling for police. Our operators call us for the help.
We have approximately 4 dispatchers in the room at once, and during that time, we deal with the whole city.
We are responsible for all our operators out on the road. Every bus that you see, we are their link, whether it be for safety, for service help, customer help.
635, I'm going to put you on ice for just a minute and I'll call you right back in a few to activate the train order. The number one reason for delays is safety. If we cannot safely get a train through an area, regardless of the reason, we won't move trains.
We're dealing with police, fire, medical, trying to stay out of their way so they can do their jobs efficiently. So there's a lot going on all at once when they just think their bus is late or we're not thinking to fill that service, but we really are.
It's been pretty tough since 2017. The unprecedented amount of snow, ice, protests, rain. It's been a little bit tough for transit, and we really appreciate the public's patience. I know the operators really endeavor to try to get people where they need to go, and it's our responsibility to try to get vehicles out there to provide that service.
Always wear your mask, and that's one of the most important things. Making trips has changed in that you really have to be conscious of your spacing around other people. We want to block any droplets that a person may be either actively exhaling or if they're just sneezing or coughing. Even talking, you can emit the virus. And that's why it's important to have the mask over your nose and mouth. Well, some people think it's mainly coming out of the mouth. The nose is really one of your primary places where you're breathing in and out. Try and keep your distance away from others, within 3 to 6 feet away from individuals. One thing that I appreciate about the bus line is that the seats are marked where you should sit and not sit to help guide those decisions on having proper distancing. It's important during these times to use as many touchless options as possible. I do have my hop card, and I keep it on my ID badge, so it's always close to me. If you wash your hands at home, that's one thing, but it's really high-touch surfaces are one of those things that can transmit the virus. So when you get on the bus, it's important to use a hand sanitizer, particularly even if you're grabbing your hop pass and you're touching that hop reader. It's good to sanitize your hands after that. After you leave, one thing about the buses is there's hand sanitizer by the back doors, and you can always grab some hand sanitizer after the doors have opened. I try to actually sit by the open windows on the bus. Turbulent airflow and ventilation help get the virus away from you. It's Portland, so I tend to bundle up a little extra on the bus too, so have your hat and gloves with you. With this virus, some people can be asymptomatic. They don't know they have it, you don't know they have it. So wearing a mask, maintaining your distance from others really helps add barriers between yourself and others who may be carrying the virus.
Typical day, I would like to say there is a typical day.
The radios are always busy, the phones are always busy. The multitasking in the OCC is to the 10th power.
305, good afternoon. You are clear for the West Ladder and back to storage track 2, Charlie and Couple.
Pretty much what an air traffic controller is for airplanes is what we do for trains.
He's supposed to be on 21. I'm going to have him hold for his time out here at Gov Center.
Think you could cut in maybe around 5th and Sheridan?
We're 911 for bus, so it's just like you calling for police. Our operators call us for the help.
We have approximately 4 dispatchers in the room at once, and during that time, we deal with the whole city.
We are responsible for all our operators out on the road. Every bus that you see, we are their link, whether it be for safety, for service help, customer help.
635, I'm going to put you on ice for just a minute, and I'll call you right back in a few to activate the train order. The number one reason for delays is safety. If we cannot safely get a train through an area, regardless of the reason, we won't move trains.
We're dealing with police, fire, medical, trying to stay out of their way so they can do their jobs efficiently. So there's a lot going on all at once when they just think their bus is late or we're not thinking to fill that service, but we really are.
It's been pretty tough since 2017. The unprecedented amount of snow, ice, protests, rain. It's been a little bit tough for transit, and we really appreciate the public's patience. I know the operators really endeavor to try to get people where they need to go, and it's our responsibility to try to get vehicles out there to provide that service.
always wear your mask, and that's one of the most important things. Making trips has changed in that you really have to be conscious of your spacing around other people. We want to block any droplets that a person may be either actively exhaling, or if they're just sneezing or coughing. Even talking, you can emit the virus. And that's why it's important to have the mask over your nose and mouth. Well, some people think it's mainly coming out of the mouth. The nose is really one of your primary places where you're breathing in and out. Try and keep your distance away from others, within 3 to 6 feet away from individuals. One thing that I appreciate about the bus line is that the seats are marked where you should sit and not sit, to help guide those decisions on having proper distancing. It's important during these times to use as many touchless options as possible. I do have my hop card, and I keep it on my ID badge, so it's always close to me. If you wash your hands at home, that's one thing, but it's really high-touch surfaces are one of those things that can transmit the virus. So when you get on the bus, it's important to use a hand sanitizer, particularly even if you're grabbing your hop pass and you're touching that hop reader. It's good to sanitize your hands after that. After you leave, one thing about the buses is there's hand sanitizer by the back doors, and you can always grab some hand sanitizer after the doors have opened. I try to actually sit by the open windows on the bus. Turbulent airflow and ventilation help get the virus away from you. It's Portland, so I tend to bundle up a little extra on the bus too, so have your hat and gloves with you. With this virus, some people can be asymptomatic. They don't know they have it, you don't know they have it. So wearing a mask, maintaining your distance from others really helps add barriers between yourself and others who may be carrying the virus.
Good evening, and welcome to TriMet's listening session, where you'll get a chance to contribute to the hiring process for TriMet's new general manager. I'm Clay Thompson, TriMet Community Outreach Coordinator, and I'll be helping to facilitate tonight's listening session. We'll begin in just a few minutes. We'll be taking comments via chat and also via live comments. If you're following online and want to make a comment, please enter your written comment in the chat box on your screen. Look for a conversational bubble in the bottom right corner of your computer screen called chat box, and send your comment to me, Clay Thompson. If you want to raise your hand to speak, open the participants window next to chat box and click on the hand icon. We'll unmute you so you can speak. If you're on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your keypad. We'll need to limit each person to 3 minutes so we can allow as many to participate as possible. If you have further questions, you can send them to comments@trimet.org. Again, that's comments@trimet.org. And if you're looking for information, please visit trimet.org/GM. Again, that's trimet.org/GM. I also want to let everyone know that tonight's session will be recorded, and we will post the video on trimet.org/GM for everyone to view. I also want to say, if you have a district in the area we want to call out, let us know where you're actually calling from or chatting from, so we can make sure we know exactly what area you're actually interested in. Now, before we begin, here's a look at TriMet and the job awaiting our new general manager.
TriMet is looking for a new general manager. That person will be responsible for leading the strategic direction of Oregon's largest public transportation provider. We run bus, light rail, commuter rail, and paratransit service across a 533 square mile service district that spans Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties. We currently have 84 bus lines, 5 light rail lines, and 1 commuter rail line, as well as an on-demand door-to-door paratransit service, as we move people throughout the Portland metro region, which is now home to some 2 million people. TriMet has been part of our community for more than 50 years, and we celebrate our past with an eye toward our future. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, TriMet provided more than 96 million rides each year. Coming out of the pandemic, transit will help lead the region's economic recovery, with our operations and projects putting people to work and our service connecting people to jobs, training, and education. TriMet's next general manager will guide our agency of 3,300 employees strong in that role. Among the projects underway, our Division Transit project under construction will bring a new type of high-capacity bus service that will speed up transit between Gresham and downtown Portland. We're also moving forward on the planning of our Better Red project to extend and improve the Max Red line between Hillsborough and the Portland International Airport. And our MAX system, the third oldest light rail system in the U.S., has reached a point of continuous improvement, with multiple projects a year to restore and upgrade equipment to keep trains moving and improve the customer experience. TriMet's test of the newest electric bus technology is shifting into higher gear, with more electric buses arriving right around the corner as we move to a clean energy bus fleet after adopting climate action goals that reduce our carbon emissions. Our new general manager also will face challenges as TriMet works to bring riders back to transit. Currently, ridership is down about 60% from pre-pandemic levels, and move the agency back to service expansion as finances allow. That person will also guide us in our effort with the community to reimagine public safety on transit, finding new opportunities to help people when a police response may not be necessary. The TriMet team looks forward to working alongside our new general manager as we serve our community in 2021 and beyond, providing convenient and reliable transit that is safe and welcoming for all.
Welcome back. My name is Lori Irish Bauman. I'm a member of the TriMet Board of Directors. I also want to acknowledge my fellow board members who are listening tonight, Director Keith Edwards and Director Kathy Way. Thank you for joining us. Choosing the next general manager is the TriMet Board's most important duty. A board search committee comprised of myself, Director Ozzie Gonzalez, and Director Linda Simmons are working with a recruitment firm to coordinate the search for the top, most qualified and diverse candidate to lead TriMet into the future. Along with my fellow board members, I'm working with TriMet to engage with as many writers, community organizations, local leaders, and members of the public as we can. We want to gather feedback to help inform our search, and we want to hear from as many voices as possible. In the coming months, the common themes that emerge from the outreach will help the search committee select 3 finalists. Then we're going to appoint a community panel consisting of community, business, and thought leaders who will provide feedback on the top candidates. Our aim is that in June, the full TriMet board will interview and select a final candidate who will be presented to the public at a special board meeting on June 16th. Tonight, we want to have a conversation with you about the most important qualities and priorities you believe are important for the person who will set and lead the strategic direction of TriMet. So let's get started. To allow as many people to speak as possible, we will limit verbal comments to 3 minutes. Our first comment is from.
Hi, Lori. This is a comment from one of our viewers, Cheryl Lewis, and she's viewing on YouTube or Facebook. And what her comment is, she would like to see privilege awareness training and trauma-informed training for any general manager with the proper CV to apply. And then our next comment is one that came online, and this is from one of our community-based organizations. And the comment is, all the knowledge he or she can gain from the previous general manager and current plans is the one that I think the new general manager should know about, the thing that they should know most about in their TriMet system. And another one says, connections that serve major employers and job concentrations and provide last mile links to transit dependent workforce need to be the priority. And then here we have another one from another community-based organization. And the comment here says, and we're asking the question, what is the one thing you think the general manager should know the most about? Their comment is, expansion is needed for equitable access to the light rail system in Washington County. And here we have another comment from a community-based organization. And again, we're asking, they're replying to their question about, what's the most important quality in a general manager? And they said, it currently doesn't meet the needs of areas outside of the metro, including Boring and Troutdale. That needs expansion. Damascus and the Barlow area as well. These connections are critical to students attending school in those areas. And here we have another comment from another community-based organization. And the comment is in response to what you think the most important quality of a general manager should be. And that is, it is important to understand historical and persisting disparities in access and the importance of looking at data to identify where inequities exist and to consider how priorities are determined with an equity lens that represent the diversity of our wider community, race, income, age, and abilities, and where TriMet can't serve. Partner with organizations like Ride Connection to assure that access. TriMet has a strong voice in standing behind those who are excluded and help to financially support the nonprofit community that is helping address those serious gaps. And here we have another comment, no name associated with this one. And again, this is in response to what you think the most important quality in a general manager should be. And that is a lot of transit history involved. The workers are the best and are willing to find transit improvements if treated with respect. And here's a comment from A. Kincaid. And the comment is, the bus is better than rail, and it is time to move forward with BRT, which is bus rapid transit, and less LRT, which is light rail transit. Additionally, TriMet needs to look at restructuring their system in light of the changing transit needs due to COVID and the low desire for people to return to Portland's CBD, or Central Business District. And here we have another comment from A. Sinvero. I think since now your riders are probably close to 80% of the underpaid, underclassed citizens, as most riders that have means are now working from home, you should not treat them like cattle. The Beaverton Transit Center had some drastic changes right before COVID. People couldn't be protected during rain or snow. Everyone had to pack into the same bus stop. That made me happy no longer need your services. I loved riding the bus until the management seemed to forget who they were serving. People that can't miss a bus or don't have good health or other means of assistance, they depend on you to not be greedy and marginalizing. And here we have another comment, and this is also in response to what's the most important thing, quality in a general manager. And the response is, it should never be us, the company and non-represented employees against them, represented employees. We need to work together as a team and stop the negativity bouncing back and forth. We all work hard and need to trust each other. TriMet faces an ever-rising issue right now with employee assaults and mental health passengers that ride the system pretty much carte blanche, with no repercussions to their actions because of their status. They need immediate help. They shouldn't be riding TriMet using it as a public shelter continuously all day with no destination. This is where many of the assaults are coming from, as well as a big reason we will have a hard time retaining as well as attracting regular ridership. TriMet needs to go back to being a proud agency. All the people that work here and call TriMet their career need to feel supported, and those who are unruly on our system need to face consequences, not just to be allowed to ride freely. And here is another comment from C. Davis. People have lost their faith in the safety and security of TriMet. I used to feel completely safe alone as a woman utilizing TriMet systems. I have not ridden a single time in the last 3 years due to homeless and mentally ill on the train, the crime and even murders that have occurred. I won't even ride in a group or with a male companion. It will take a major overhaul to convince me that I'm not putting my life in jeopardy when I ride TriMet. And here is another comment. And this is from T. Moreno. And the response to a question about qualities in the TriMet general manager, they say they understand the situation from the rider's point of view. All too often, the general manager, board members, executives, and other managers and planners seem to be out of touch, out of step with the needs of those who ride the system. Comments and particularly suggestions need to be considered more seriously. Just because one doesn't have a degree in transit planning doesn't mean a concern isn't valid. It doesn't need more consideration than a nice idea, but. The ridership is the foundation, along with operators who often are not listening to us either, is on the front lines as both see what is happening on a daily basis, which administrators and executives don't. I've made numerous suggestions, many of which, when I mention them to others, get a thumbs up. However, the feedback received from TriMet at times tends to feel more like excuses for why something is not done. If this were still a privately operated system, I could understand it. This is a public service paid for by taxpayers, both locally and nationally. And at times, it seems not to be responsive as it should be. If I were general manager, I'd appoint several members to the board who are regular system riders, who would have just as much to say as the others. Let's see if we have any requests to open for chat. Okay, here is a question, written question, or not question, but a comment from Chris Billman. What plans are in place to expand the variety of mobility, adaptive mobility options, moving an entire car of seats and permit adaptive tricycles in the first car? It could increase the distance for the gap, and adult tricycles could provide transportation independence. Low voltage electric assistance adaptive mobility devices are becoming more popular. Inclusion of new technologies would include many others left out. And let's see if we have any comments coming in through YouTube. Okay. So let's see what we can find for more questions that have come in. And here's something from Facebook. And this is a comment regarding the hiring of the general manager and the qualities they should have. And the comment is, be willing to work with people, build successful relationships, listen, learn, and respect all points of view, even if you disagree. Finally, treat people the way you want to be treated, i.e. the golden rule. And let's see, here's another comment coming from Facebook. And the comment is in regards to qualities in a general manager, what they should focus on. Expand light rail cars from 2 to 3 in the upcoming years, starting 3 light cars in blue, green, and red lines. Delete some or most underperforming stations, especially those located within 4 to 9 miles distance. That's distance apart from each other. And here's another comment from Facebook from a S. Dean. And this comment reads, having Saturday, Sunday schedules really doesn't make sense right now because the only people that should be leaving their houses right now are folks working in grocery stores, etc., that don't have regular Monday through Friday 9 to 5 schedules. The folks that do have those schedules are mostly able to work from home and or make enough money to where they don't depend on TriMet to get to work. And so here we can see another comment, and this one has come in through Facebook. And this one is from a T. Verisov. And it says, I believe that it is imperative that the new general manager should have an intricate knowledge of the city layout and be familiar with existing bus routes. This is why I feel it is necessary that any prospect should either be native to the city or be a longtime resident with experience riding TriMet. Okay, so we'll look for a few more comments from folks. And this is a comment that's come in through chat from Carrie Schlosshauer. I pronounced that correctly. And the comment is, the next general manager needs a clear vision for rapidly improving transit, except through service improvements and increased bus service and frequency. We also need to dramatically increase transit ridership by increasing service to reach the region's climate goals. And she goes on, multiple youth-led organizing groups have spent 20 years advocating for Youth Pass. And last year, there was a commitment to expanding Youth Pass region-wide. The next general manager needs to stand ready to partner with community advocates to make this vision a reality. So here is another comment from a community-based organization. And the comment reads, the TriMet system is fantastic. Coming from Miami, what you guys have here is just superb. I wouldn't like the system to be downgraded due to the economic impact of COVID-19. At the same time, the homeless crisis in Portland has many safety issues that must be addressed. I saw too many people, mostly homeless or with mental issues, riding without a face mask or even using one, but disposing of it when seated. I saw a bus driver arguing with a teenager because he did not pay the fare, didn't have money on him. But the bus driver asked him to say hello to her since it is a matter of respect. I would support a campaign for riders to understand the importance of respect to their drivers and create a collective consciousness about the homeless crisis and mental issues on passengers. I believe that the future manager of TriMet must be aware of these difficulties and should find plans to address these issues and at the same time create a collective thinking on how we, the riders, should behave within the public transportation system. I also want to give a reminder to folks that if you want, you can raise your hand to speak, and you can simply, use the chat box in the right-hand corner. You can raise your hand, and we can unmute you so that you can speak if you would like to. And here is another comment from B. Navarro. And I think since now your riders are probably close to 80% of the underpaid, underclassed citizens, as most riders that have means are now working from home, you should not, I think that's the same one that I read just a while back, excuse me. All right. All right, so here's another one from a community-based organization. Look at TriMet employees at all service levels and understand their needs and safety. Start with your workers. Keep the system updated and running in a clean and safe manner, and people will ride. Don't focus on ridership for the sake of ridership. Focus on your assets, employees, equipment, and treating them well. And here is another one from T. Miller. It is an efficient system that helps many people get around, but there are some very underserved areas. For example, Rock Creek and Cornelius Pass Road. They need to have service restored to this area. All right. Let's see what else is coming in. And then here's another comment from a community-based organization. The general manager, new general manager, should know that Portlanders have pride in the system and want it to be the best. Transit can help us achieve our goals: transit equity, climate action, and cohesive community. And so here is another comment from, names don't come through quite so easily. Okay, here's something from Facebook. And so on Facebook, they're saying the system runs itself. All you need to do is keep it on the right path. Your workers have been abused, even in the 50th anniversary book TriMet printed in celebration. I read it and less than impressed. That kind of hostility to the people who make the system what it is, hint, it isn't you or the board, as well as additional grifts and scams the board runs on the riders and workers, will make your job a living hell. The agency and itself, people cannot afford another external incompetent, nor a criminal forbidden from operating transit systems in his own country. The board already has plenty of incompetent criminals. And so here is another comment that has come through Facebook. I'm also looking to see if anybody is asking to be unmuted. I don't see anybody yet. Okay. And here is another one from Facebook. And this is about the TriMet system and the new general manager. And they say, we utterly depend on it, making it safe, making it secure, and removing bottlenecks that create 3.5-hour delays for riders due to a single down train or critical downed outage. And here is another one that was taken from our survey questions. And it says all levels of management and leadership needs to be held accountable for ensuring that their groups meet their goals and objectives in a team-based, inclusive manner that focuses on long-term planning and permanent fixes instead of short-term temporary solutions. If leaders do not know how to do this, they should be trained how to do so. If they still do not do this or are unwilling to do so, they should be highly encouraged by their management to find another position that is more fitting for their skill set. Okay, and here is another comment coming from our survey that was taken recently. And this again is about our general manager and what qualities they should have. And it says, during the interviews, each candidate should receive a detailed description of how difficult it is to operate transit in the metro area. To enable transit to be more effective, we should have park and ride lots all around the periphery, connected to bus-only lanes on every freeway and highway coming into the center city. But we don't, which means TriMet buses trapped in rush hour traffic every morning and evening. In Portland, the streets are insanely narrow and parked up with cars along each side. The bridges and the crazy downtown streets pose their own kinds of challenges. There are huge numbers of people without fixed abode, which poses terrific problems. The presence on transit of the less stable amongst them frightens away residents who might otherwise ride the buses and trains. The social political problem is also difficult to navigate. So many press for fare free transit without having the least idea of where the necessary millions of dollars could come from, or what the consequences would be. I have the sense that too many of these advocates believe that TriMet has deep, deep pockets stuffed with money that it deliberately withholds from serving the public. Also, these people tend to be strident about unexamined cliches, e.g., that BIPOC, B-I-P-O-C, are terrified of transit police, whereas a TriMet investigation showed that a majority of BIPOC riders are afraid of their fellow passengers and want the police on board. The prospective general manager should know that these advocates are a clamorous, self-congratulatory, and mostly insufferable lot. The prospective general manager should also know that Oregonians, especially outside Portland, seem to demand a great deal, mostly more roadway for their pickups, but don't see why they should pay for it. The person who is willing to take on the job after gaining full knowledge of what TriMet faces will be the one who succeeds in the position and stays in it. All right, let's see if we have anybody who wants to speak. Seeing anybody yet? And so here is a comment also from our general manager survey. And they're saying regarding the hiring of the general manager that it is a shadow government. There is no accountability and virtually no visibility. The board is mostly unknown, and the staff is incredibly weak on strategic thinking outside of maintaining their own positions and jobs. We need a visible, accountable TriMet that is viewed as a leader in this region. We need a TriMet that includes a serious commitment to decarbonization, one that isn't lost in the smoke and mirrors of renewable diesel or oxymoron. We need a TriMet general manager whose job description includes fighting climate change. Telling the job description doesn't mention climate or use the word climate once. This is not coincidental and reflects what so many of us expect of TriMet: empty words and lackluster performance. We need a TriMet that offers real mobility choices to everyone and is an organization engaged in the fight for making accessibility a higher regional goal than simply mobility. Let's see if we have any other chat questions that have come in. Laura, are you able to take notes on some of these if you, or you have any questions about any of them? Okay. Let's go on to the next question. This one also came from the general manager survey, and this is regarding service. And it says, service has been cut back so much the system is largely unusable. My line, when created in 1984, ran 7 days per week until midnight. Now it runs peak hour only. There are huge swaths of the metro area with no midday or weekday service, and peak hour service running at night, an hour or less, is simply uncompetitive with the car or Uber. TriMet needs to go back to 20-minute base headways during the peak hour and 30 minutes in the off-peak. Okay, and I also want to remind folks that if you do want to raise your hand, you can use the hand icon on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, and we're happy to unmute you to allow you to speak and give your comments verbally. Okay, and here is another comment coming from our general manager survey. And it says, TriMet has many resources. Learn them and make the hard decisions to be inclusive, fair, and consistent. Increase safety, which will boost image. And conduct an audit to look at the good and bad within the organization in an effort to run the best agency possible. In the audit, look at union versus open shop contracts, employee and rider safety, deferred maintenance issues, and finally, celebrate the hard work of your employees and encourage them to manage waste. All right. And we have another comment also came in through the general manager survey. And it says, TriMet is a vital system for the metro area, particularly those in marginalized communities. It should be an equitable system that doesn't inherently discriminate based on income or race. That is what the new general manager should focus on. And here is another one. TriMet is failing. Too much letting people get away with abhorrent behavior. Not enough removal of people who aren't riding for a specific purpose other than sleeping. They aren't vulnerable people. They're taking advantage and scaring off decent paying customers. And here is another comment from one of our community-based organizations. And the comment reads, the communities it serves and the link between feeling safe and increased ridership should be a primary focus of the general manager. And here is another one from our another community-based organization. And the comment reads, how much removal of the free zone affected our most vulnerable folks? That is something the general manager should ask himself or herself. The zone was too big. It should be brought back and reduced to the downtown area. All right. Okay, and here is another comment from a community-based organization, actually came through our Riders Club. And the comment reads, I have voted for every single MAX extension except for the last one and used to take MAX semi-frequently. Not anymore. Portland City Council refuses to address homelessness, crime, graffiti, drug use, and panhandling in the city core. I rarely visit now. I saw no point in expanding MAX service downtown. My job, which is located near Montgomery Park, is looking for a new home. Downtown would be perfect, but they refuse to even consider it due to its decline. If you want improved ridership on TriMet, you're going to have to advocate for a clean, safe downtown. As long as downtown is dying, so will ridership. This should be a primary focus of our new general manager. Okay. And we have another comment that came through our Riders Club survey. And this one reads, I know many people who have often gotten tickets for riding without a valid fare. I don't know all of their stories, but I got a ticket once even though I had brought a ticket that morning. The app just malfunctioned. It didn't load properly or something, but I had a receipt and still got a ticket that I think was about $175 or something. I stopped riding, but I'm generally a huge proponent of public transit, so would definitely ride again if I was refunded the ticket citation amount. And here is one from one of our community-based organizations. In response to the question about our general manager and the qualities they should have, they say, I want them to accept what TriMet is, a crucial lifeline for this community's most vulnerable. I have taken TriMet all my life. It was the most valuable when I was a teen, with no options to get home safe. Because it was there for me, I'm always a staunch supporter. You aren't going to entice some rich snob who has never needed TriMet. But you'll get the support of me and my partner who didn't want to ride downtown to his job. And we want a service that serves low-income and houseless community members, as well as being a great resource for us. I've never felt safer with a transit cop by the way, but felt safe with a sense of community on the bus of people who are using a service and glad to be using it. Also, more resources and more lines in our outer lower income communities. And so let's see if we have anybody looking to be unmuted so far. And so here is another comment that has come in through our Riders Club survey. And it says, if homeless kids ride for free, then so should everyone. I've seen this on the buses and MAX, where they get on free and nothing's done. And here is another comment from our Riders Club. And it says, if the drivers are doing well, I believe it is the attitude and work ethic of TriMet employees which makes this system work. Drivers have a difficult job dealing with the public on a daily basis. Feeling appreciated for their contribution makes their job more rewarding, and this trickles down at their interactions with the public. Happy employees equal happy customers. And here is another comment, this one coming from one of our community-based organizations. And it reads, if the new general manager is unfamiliar with TriMet, the person should understand that TriMet employees are professional and friendly to riders and to solicit ideas and solutions for issues, noted already in the questionnaire. From them, since they are frontline workers and have solutions and ideas to TriMet issues that may be currently explored, would be a great way for the new general manager to become familiar with the system. If the person is familiar with TriMet, the person will understand the previous statement and already or should take it to heart. Okay, we have another comment coming from our Riders Club. And it says, if you solve the issue of 6 feet for safety by making 6 feet the set standard on TriMet, and make waiting for the bus safer and easier by providing well-lit stops so buses don't just breeze by people waiting at night, which has happened to me hundreds of times, you would automatically see riders come back. We're not falling for the 3 foot is safe, only there rule. It's an insult to our intelligence and potentially dangerous. I, for one, am offended by it. I wish I could still ride daily as I used to, but not when you're basically saying the rules don't apply to us. We don't care if you get sick. All right, here is another comment we're getting from our Riders Club survey. And it says, in this city, your success as the head of an essentially public service will be measured by your ability to avoid scandals and involving transit police who are well known for targeting members of the city's Black, brown, and houseless communities. You will be up against a growing movement of smart, relentless advocates, pro bono lawyers, and public records activists, along with hundreds, and at times thousands of ordinary residents ready to demonstrate their commitment to equal treatment under the law. Conduct the agency's business in the public interest. Again, a verbal reminder to anybody who wants to speak, just simply raise your hand using the hand feature on your screen in the lower bottom part of your screen, and we'll unmute you so you can speak and deliver your comment directly verbally. Okay, and here is another comment coming from a community-based organization. It is better run than a major transit system than Los Angeles. TriMet is a system I use because I don't own a car, so thank you for my honor pass. I was paying $100 a month, and that was a lot for me, as I'm a low-income earner. I appreciate TriMet keeping the fares low, or as low as possible. TriMet needs to improve the cleaning trash on buses and trains, as well as dirty conditions of the bus stops. TriMet really needs to step it up in those areas. Also, a fare inspector got on a bus I was riding, and I pointed out to him that a passenger wasn't wearing a mask. And he actually said to me that if the police weren't enforcing wearing a mask, he couldn't enforce it either. I was really shocked that he actually said that to me. I have a talk with the fare inspectors, as the new general manager should take control of this. And it's mandatory because this is mandatory by the state of Oregon from the governor. Okay, and here we have another comment coming from our Riders Club. And it says, it's really not broken, but only wounded, so to speak. Expand all that's good, but hidden because of COVID crazy times and the cultural knee-jerk reactions of politicians. Also, for the general manager, as you design and look for designs in new buses and MAX for the future, please pay better attention to those of us seniors and disabled. An example of new MAX car priority are for a wheelchair that won't fit a larger power chair at all. So they sit in the aisle and people are horrible to them because they choose to be in the way, even though they have no choice. Or on the newer buses, the yellow poles in the way are so much in the way. They can't fit into the seat itself. So people sit sideways and into the aisle, and nobody can get through. Major design flaws that should have been foreseen with insight and how people ride transit, especially when it's crowded. Okay, and here is another written comment, and it says, it's a good system, but needs work. For instance, I've seen numerous people board a bus, sauntering right past the hop reader or cash-taking machine. Obviously a fare cheater. Something needs to be done about that. The general manager should be the focus on that. The rest of us pay our fares as we board. These fare cheaters need to be stopped. They need to be taken to court and get rid of the humongous fine. $200 for the first offense, $250 for the second offense, and $350 to $500 for the third offense. Maybe a lifetime ban and/or mandatory fines up to $1,000 for each offense after the fourth offense inclusive. All right, and here is another comment from a writer, and it says the TriMet system is dirty, smells, and is highly unreliable for the high price. I only use TriMet a few times a month. It's rare when I can complete my ride without some issue coming up, like missing a bus because it arrives 5 minutes early, then the next bus is 10 minutes behind. Or when a bus is supposed to show up and it doesn't. Then TriMet Tracker resets for the next bus in 20 minutes. Also, why are there so few options for getting from southeast to northeast without having to go downtown or 100 blocks out to 98th Avenue? Why doesn't TriMet think it's acceptable and appropriate to charge the same price for public transit as does transit in New York City? Portland is far from that kind of metropolis. There should be no reason to charge as much as New York City for transit when we have a fraction of available transit options. Your new general manager should look at this.
Clay, can you provide again instructions for people who are participating by video how to raise their hands?
Yes, if you're participating online, you can look at the bottom row on your screen, and there will be a video, there should be a hand icon in there. When you click on the More Options button or on the Reactions button, you should see the Raise Hand button in there. And in there, it's basically on the bottom row of your computer. It has a little smiley face with a plus sign on kind of up towards the top of the head. And you click on that, and there's a raise hand icon button that you can press, and we will unmute you. Okay, we have a request from Brett Baylor, who's raising his hand to speak. And we'll go ahead and unmute you. And go ahead and speak, Brett.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you, members of the board. My name is Brett Baylor, and I worked for 27 years at TriMet in the Information Technology Department, and was fortunate enough to retire in 2015 as manager of the database group. Having read the draft job description, I would stress one suggested addition and one additional qualification. Number one, the addition. Climate change and TriMet's response are never mentioned in the job description. Given our current global crisis and TriMet's responsibility as Oregon's largest diesel user and polluter, the next general manager must rapidly respond by decarbonizing the TriMet fleet, both revenue and non-revenue vehicles, including lift minibuses. This is the most critical priority for the next GM. We need an expedited and fully developed plan for full decarbonization prior to the current agency goal of 2040. And it needs to include measurable, auditable, and transparently reported performance goals. The plan must also include provisions to revamp the agency processes and budget processes in order to take care of, in a given year, if we fall short, that in following years we can meet those goals or surpass them. Until recent years, the general managers of TriMet not only ran what was long called the best transit agency in North America, They also help lead the Portland metro region toward humanely designed urban development and environmental sustainability and foresight. They led not just in the public arena, but also within the internal organization. They consistently guided the TriMet workforce and led by example. The next GM should embody those values and needs to rehumanize TriMet's internal work environment, reshaping it in a way that values listening to its employees, that respects and rewards excellence and experience, and that is strong enough not to fear listening to those in the workforce who may disagree. These qualities are every bit as important as the job as transit administrative experience. Anyway, thank you again for your time and patience and for all of your commitment to public service. We need good public servants. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate your comments. So let's see if anybody else is raising their hand. See anybody yet? So we'll take a few more comments that have come in through from our community-based organizations. And this one reads, in response to qualities for the general manager. The general manager should stop spending millions of dollars on police and private security. Stop using TriMet to organize transport of groups of police or arrested protesters. Commit to an immediate 100% reduction in emissions from all TriMet buses, fleet, vehicles, and everything. We are decades behind in tackling climate change. We cannot afford to wait additional years to act boldly. TriMet's current climate goals are unacceptably weak and delayed. And TriMet's claiming that it won't be possible to switch out their heavy-duty construction vehicles for electric versions is false. Volvo makes a line of electric construction vehicles under the name Volvo Construction Equipment, or Volvo CE. Make all fares free for everyone. Use TriMet buses as warming stations for the homeless during snowstorms when the bus lines are canceled due to unsafe road conditions. Let's take a look and see if anybody else raised their hand. Not yet. So we'll look at another comment that has come through our survey. And that comment says, that Fairless Square being taken away was a huge mistake and so detrimental to a lot of people. Tons of people live and work downtown but are barely getting by because food and rent is expensive. Then add bills, laundry, necessities for hygiene, etc., and there's no money left for transportation. If there was still a Fairless Square for those 7 stops that go through downtown, people that live and work in that area will have one less thing to worry about. Another huge factor is the city's homeless that can't afford housing and live on the streets or in shelters downtown, and services they need for showers, laundry, medical counseling are all in that same area that was Fairless. If someone looked up exactly how many tickets or exclusions have been handed out inside that area, I'm sure it would be extensive, all which could have been avoided. Court fees for paying the ticket, more problems for homeless people that can't pay and are then excluded and have no means of transportation, just not right. Fairless Square has been gone for 10 plus years. It's time to be for the people and put it back so that all these folks can have access to TriMet without worrying about how they can pay for it or if they'll be caught by fare inspectors. Let's see if there's any other chat questions coming through. I see none or no raised hands. So we'll take another look at a comment that's come through Writers Club. And this one says that Portland Metro has become more than just a small city next to Seattle. It is time we start having 24-hour or at least buses running after midnight in the downtown area and more places around Portland. It might be down because of COVID, but as a rider, it was so inconvenient not making the last bus at 12:15 a.m. on a busy bustling Saturday night in 2019. And I think I shouldn't have to call a friend nearby to let me stay there until 5:30 a.m. It needs to be extended longer hours. Okay, here is another comment that's come through our Writers Club survey. And this one says the biggest problem agencies have, especially agencies like TriMet, is that they don't value work. They value education over actual work experience. They do not value what it takes to get something done, and subsequently, they don't value the employees doing work. They don't value the commitment they make. By not valuing employees, you fight with the union, reduce benefits, and you create a toxic work environment where managers flourish. You don't encourage the union to police its own and to make sure the work is done, which fosters an environment of laziness. And let's see. We have another comment that's come in, this also through Writers Club. And this one says, the Portland Transit Police is a racist institution. Ridership should be free to those who can't afford to pay, and the riders should be safer with unarmed TriMet security like they have in East Portland on the Max, rather than aggressive armed police who have a history of violence, lawlessness, and lack of community accountability. The transit police budget should go to reducing and eliminating fares for vulnerable people who use TriMet for transportation and to stay alive in inclement weather. PDX loves the unarmed TriMet security because they are respectful and helpful. Transit police target and exploit the community they only nominally protect. Defund transit police. And let's see if anybody else is raising a hand. I haven't seen anything yet. So we'll take another comment that has come in through our Writers Club. And this one says, the system benefited in the past from good labor managed relations at a high morale work environment. We haven't had either for a very long time. Cooperation and transparency between top management and the workforce needs desperately to be overhauled. It wasn't a listed priority in the survey, but I feel improving workforce morale through an entirely new approach to labor management relations should be a very high priority for the new general manager. Restoring paid work for an initial union orientation meeting for new hires would be a good start. Okay, and so now we have another comment that has come in. And the comment reads, the TriMet system as a whole, since the introduction of trains, has been poorly managed. You permit homeless riders and their garbage bags full of empty cans to clutter the floors. You permit bicyclists on the trains when all of the hooks are taken. TriMet is too often on homeless, soft on homeless, and on bicyclists riding the trains. TriMet should charge an additional permit fee for bicyclists. You permit homeless to stink up the trains, and you permit bicyclists to clutter the floors with bicycles when there is no hooks available. All right, we'll take a look and see if anybody is talking or raise their hands. Not so far. So we can take another question from our ridership for our Writers Club survey. And this one, of course, is about the TriMet general manager, what qualities they should have. And this one says they need to know that TriMet is integral to the planning, design, and values of the Portland metro area, and that their leadership must promote cooperation between all groups and sectors in the area, particularly in regard to transit's role fighting climate change and spurring growth. They need to be a person who is not autocratic, but far-sighted and community-oriented. TriMet must return to its aspirational environmental leadership role in Portland. Okay, so let's see if we have another person in the chat. Nothing so far. Let's see if we have anything coming in through Facebook. And yes, we do. So, all right. So here is a comment from Jose Peter Rodriguez Lopez, and this one says, the new general manager must provide more frequent night service in Portland International Airport, Beaverton, Gresham, downtown Portland, better peak service, more security, and improved Sunday and Saturday service. And this one also has come in through Facebook. And this one says the qualities in our new general manager should be honesty, transparency, humility, and accountability. And here is another one from Facebook. And it says, we need a general manager that focuses on rebuilding our defunded bus system rather than caters to developers and politicians. TriMet is a transit agency, not a development agency. Okay, and here's another one that just came in on Facebook. It says, another issue for the new manager needs to address is the back door on the bus needs to open automatically without requiring someone to actually touch the door to get it open, especially during COVID. Right. Thank you, the folks on Facebook. Those are all good comments. I appreciate your sending in those. If you have more, please give us some more comments on Facebook or on YouTube. And so let's take a look at another comment that was sent in via Writers Club. And this one says, this is a good system with good people working for it. TriMet needs to focus on the cleaning of the system so it can protect its employees first. The safety of the customers will be a result. TriMet makes Portland better, but it needs to be safer for everyone. Fix the safety issues on the system so TriMet can be the best it can be. Okay, and so here is another comment that has come through our Writers Club survey. And it says, TriMet has become bogged down in political nonsense. Rid the Department of Political Correctness and get back to the business of moving as many people as possible, safely and as quickly as possible. Be mindful that Oregon has a tendency to build for the past instead of the future. Work with city planners to zone major employment centers and housing around rapid transit facilities. We have wet weather a lot. Plan new transit centers covered with plenty of covered parking, along with food and drink available. And here is another one that just came in on Writers Club, and it says, TriMet has a history of ignoring or minimizing threats to rider safety from mentally unstable individuals, i.e. the 3 people stabbed at the Hollywood Transit Center by that Christensen dude. It has also been caught flat-footed by sudden emergencies such as unexpected MAX issues. It is improving in both areas, but shouldn't get too complacent. Nice. Good comments coming in so far. Thank you, everybody, for sending those in. Look and see if there's others who want to speak. See anybody yet? So here is one from one of our community-based organizations. TriMet is a big draw for Portland. It brings people to the city because it helps with transportation for tourists, school kids, the elderly, and people who don't drive for whatever reason. Personally, TriMet is one of the driving forces that helped me choose Portland as my home 10 years ago. Knowing that I was able to get to just about any part of the city without driving provided me with incredible freedom and independence. This is something our general manager should expand on and make more people want to move here. All right. And here's another one from our Writers Club group. This one says, TriMet is a crucial part of our city and how we get places. We should work on making sure that no one is unable to afford transit. It would be nice if I didn't have to add an hour to take the bus or MAX compared to driving, such as going from Kenton to the airport or to Powellhurst, which are generally 20 to 30 minutes to drive versus 90 to 120 minutes to take transit. This is mainly because everything goes radically through downtown with no tangential routes around town. If there were less than a 3-time penalty, I'd probably renew my 1-year pass and ride more constantly. Let's see if we have more Facebook stuff coming in. Let's see, nothing yet. So let's take a look and see what we've got from our community-based organizations. We had some good stuff that they had sent us. So let's see. Okay. Here is one actually from a Writers Club, and it says, TriMet needs to work on being a more inclusive company. Its company should reflect its riders. Everyone should feel safe riding TriMet regardless of race, gender, sexuality, etc. Its focus should be on increasing bus service in all areas regardless of ridership. It's frustrating to take only the bus and have to wait an hour, sometimes just because I happen to be in a low rider area. More buses will increase ridership. Like, I live right on NATO Parkway with a stop for the number 16 bus. I don't take it often. Because it's often 30 or more minutes out, and I can get to where I need to go by taking something else in time, and in the time that it takes the 16 to get to my stop. All right, let's see who else is out here. Comments. And here is one from one of our community-based organizations. It says, TriMet used to care, but they have gotten so big and money hungry, they have forgotten about the riders. It's hard times because of COVID. If you are truly in this together, then act it. Put the fares back to something that can reflect the hurting individuals. The buses used to be a safe place for kids to ride to. If in trouble, it's not anymore. Kids are more in trouble now than ever. If you focus on the people and not the dollar, you will get your riders back. And in doing so, you will get your money back. Run your company with heart. Your company had more heart when I rode the bus as a kid than it does now. That was in the 1980s. I have seen it go downhill before COVID. I am surprised you are all still operating. Okay, and here is another one from our community-based organization. This is related to COVID. And so the TriMet system is still designed as a spoke and hub downtown to downtown Portland. Prior to COVID-19, this was inadequate and did not serve people in places like East Portland very well. After COVID-19, we can expect less morning and afternoon commuting to and from downtown. This is an opportunity to realign service with the places that people actually need to go. Transit ridership has been stagnant that past couple of decades despite needed investments in things like light rail. The new general manager should start by asking why, and then by dismantling business as usual. The world has changed, and people are changing with it. Let's build a great transit system that meets people's needs, not just downtown commuters. Okay. And let's see, anybody raise their hands? Nobody raised their hands so far, so let's read another one from our Writers Club. And this came in through the survey regarding our general manager. They're saying that we are a car-free family by choice who are upper income. Please focus on ways to make the system faster than cars, so more people who have the means use the system, which will put more money into TriMet to expand and have faster service in other communities such as East PDX. We are working from home, and we will probably not feel comfortable taking transit until late 2022. We're biking only now. COVID safety is the biggest barrier at the moment. Okay, so anybody raising their hands? Let's see, we have more coming in. This one from one of our community-based organizations, for employee at a community-based organization. And they say, we live in a politically divided world where a significant minority of the population believes public transit is of the devil and must be opposed at all costs. Clackamas County passed an emergency ballot measure that attempted to shut down construction of the Orange Line. The only reason it didn't work is because the money had already been spent when the measure passed. Vancouver will vote against an I-5 bridge replacement that includes light rail, even though Vancouver residents are the ones who would benefit from this. This should be a primary focus of your new general manager. Good comments, thank you. All right, let's see what else we have. Okay, and this one came in through our survey, and this is from the Writers Club. And it says, you're going to be shocked at how indifferent the bureaucracy is to basic protocols, such as having a written standard for evaluating which bus lines should be cut, kept, or expanded. There is just a lot of grunt level work you're going to have to do to create a functional bureaucracy that isn't innately tilted towards maintaining economic and racial inequities in this transit zone of Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties. For everyone's sake, make sure your general manager doesn't assume anything because this bureaucracy is badly messed up. Good luck. You're going to need it. As an example, the spell check for this survey doesn't recognize Multnomah as a word. Apparently, it's not recognizing Multnomah as an actual word in the survey. All right. So here is another comment. Let's see, take a look and see if we have anybody who's raised their hand. Yes. Okay. And so this one actually came in through one of our service alerts emails, and they responded to the GM survey and said a real city, or at least one with any claim to the name, has excellent transportation 24/7, easily reaching and serving every area within city limits. Few people in such a city have or use private cars. This needs to be a goal in the PDX area and of our new general manager. Make transit free and tax the cars heavily to be within city limits. That would help. You also need to make TriMet safer without racial profiling or discriminating against anyone, as it is often used by people who have mental health issues that might well cause them to be dangerous. This would bring more riders back. Unfortunately, there's no real way to tell the difference between someone harmless and someone who is not until an incident happens, such as the Jeremy Christian murders. Oh yes, and the humans are not meant to be sardined in close proximity to each other. I hate having to be within touching distance of people with whom I am not on intimate terms. This is one of the innovations of the COVID-19 protocols that I hope will remain. Okay, let's see what else we have out here. Okay. And so here is another email that has come in from a frequent writer. And it says, as a TriMet writer of 13 years, I must say the new general manager must know and respect TriMet as one agency that treats everyone with respect and courtesy. And 90% of your drivers are excellent, most kind and empathetic staff. So their safety is also a top priority. TriMet, as it is now, is one of the top transit systems in the whole of the US. It's important to stay on top, embrace new technology, and research international transit systems success and failures so TriMet is managed well now and into the future. Thanks. Thank you for your comments. They're good. All right, and here is another one that has come in, a comment regarding the general manager, regarding seniors and disabled. It says elderly and physically, mentally challenged people and poor or homeless people, whether anyone likes it or not, are very likely to use and either inadvertently or deliberately abuse TriMet. At the very least, the trains need far more active and thorough monitoring of behavior of folks entering and leaving. I'm not calling for heavy-handed, I'll delete the word out of them, cops, although prudent use of force will be required from time to time. Hire social workers and security people who can be on board the trains most of the time. Because I can tell you there are lots of street folks who get on board and have no qualms about not wearing PPE, or personal protective equipment, and don't understand that yelling at people to ask about whether they have $5 to give them isn't appropriate ever. I don't think you realize how many people there are out there who would never consider using TriMet if they could possibly avoid it because of fears of people with erratic behavior. Their concerns cannot be dismissed out of hand because they're precious or racist or people or bad people somehow. Transit stations and many bus stops, certainly any with shelters, have not are not cleaned very often. Not just weekly, however, much of it costs to employees to keep people to do this. Garbage, needles, rotting food, etc. does not work. You need a cleaner system, and this is what your general manager should focus on. Okay, let's see if there are any People have raised their hands. That's okay. And we'll take a look here real quick and see if there's anything that's come in new on Facebook. There. So let's go ahead and take another comment. And this one also came in through our Writers Club survey. And this says, having lived and worked in cities with great mass transit systems, I felt very comfortable using TriMet when I moved to PDX 8 years ago. I have always been surprised that you can jump on the streetcars and MAX trains without paying your fare. What a horrible oversight. As the PDX homeless population has grown exponentially in the past few years, even prior to COVID, so have negative experience for riders like me. It is rare when I can take the streetcar and not have a negative experience. Disruptors scream at each other or at no one, incite or threaten violence, etc. With COVID, there are also a number of people who do not observe the seats marked "Do not sit here." The bottom line is that streetcar safety has become a bigger issue with every passing day, and I seriously doubt those disruptors are paying to ride like the rest of us. I have stopped using the streetcar as often, very often, because of the lack of safety. I genuinely think if you limit access to streetcars and MAX trains to people who are paying their fare, it would minimize these issues and ridership would go up. I currently use TriMet only if we have inclement weather or if it's a must, and the reason is the lack of safety. This is something your new general manager should look at. Okay, and so here we have, let's take a look and see if we have anybody who has raised their hands. Okay, and so here is another one. This actually came through our Writers Club survey. And it says, I have ridden since a year after it started. And this is regarding the MAX system, but not since the COVID shutdown of my office downtown. A few years prior to that, I made sure I only rode during normal commute times, as the feeling of being safe on the train was no longer there. I no longer would work after 5:30 in the evening, also live on the east side. The first side to get MAX and the side with the least updates, electronic times of when trains are coming, transit tracker, and so forth. I think transparency is why a train is running behind or being shut down at 197, worst safety stop, when only 4 more stops to the end. You shouldn't be dumping your customers when a driver gets to go off of their duty. At 197th, another driver could take it the rest of the way without leaving customers in the dark, wet, cold, etc. Drivers should be more transparent as to why about the delays. Some are great and keep the riders informed. Others don't say a word, which is frustrating for a rider to try to get to work. I do appreciate the bus bridges that are set up quickly when a problem arises. And in this term, he's talking about bus bridges as shuttle buses that bridge the distance between areas where the service is down. All right, thank you for that comment. Let's see if anybody has any new comments that have come in. I'd like to check the chat on these. Nothing there. Okay. Okay. And here is a comment that's come in through one of our community-based organizations. And it states that it's a large system with many options for security breaches, both information system-wise and passenger-wise. I witnessed an assault on my streetcar ride home last Sunday afternoon. An obviously homeless woman and her male companion attacked a young Asian woman. To the best of my knowledge, police were called. The young Asian woman wanted to just walk home, and I walked with her to her apartment building. As the attack ensured, another homeless man stepped in between the woman and the young Asian woman, protecting her. And see, I am 74 years old and have always felt safe riding the TriMet's system. Still do. Handling non-paying riders, folks who are high and intended harm, is a major challenge. This will be something that your new general manager will need to focus on. All right, and here, let's see if anybody else is coming in through chat. I don't see anything through chat, so let's take a look at some more others. Okay, this one is one that came in through our survey via Facebook. And it says ridership comes when people have no other choice but to ride due to the lack of funds or access to other options. Those riders won't go anywhere and will come back when many of their jobs come back. Riders like me are less likely to come back. For me, I went from a daily rider to an almost never rider, and here's why. On some days, I would be stuck on the bus or at a bus stop without seating or cover for hours as a bus either sat in one place, drove by, or never showed up. Poor communication from drivers, hearing a driver mumble words you don't understand, or on a garbled loudspeaker, or show no street name or the name of a street clearly not being traveled. My elderly mother, as an example, from out of town, asked the driver to let her know when she reached the downtown train station. The driver did not, but instead dropped her in a snowbank miles away after repeatedly providing her incorrect information. She had a sprained ankle at the time and missed her train home. I began working remotely 2 to 3 days a week before the pandemic on the days I used the bus and had to pay $5 a day for an hour commute on a bus that often arrived early or late with no guarantee when I would actually arrive at home. It was not uncommon for me to watch a bus drive by me at 6 a.m. when a Lyft, that's L-Y-F-T, that's ride sharing, cost me $15 to $20 and a 15-minute guaranteed commute. This also made my $100 a month bus pass overpriced and useless. I then used the ticket app, which worked great until you refused to accept those single-use tickets and required a hop pass. I then had to somehow locate a hop pass as a non-driver who would not simply take an hour out of my day to find a TriMet location and buy one. This also invalidated the leftover day tickets I had purchased. More lost money. At one point, my hop pass did not scan properly, and I had to convince an enforcement agent I did in fact have an active monthly pass. So even though his scanner literally shows I have a monthly pass, I got to be berated and scolded for not scanning my pass correctly, even though it was, again, a monthly pass, and clearly indicated I had an active ticket. What happens to others who have a daily ticket and the bus does not scan, the pass is not scanned correctly? I had to sit outside a bus stop in the pouring rain at midnight due to a massive amount of human feces spread and smeared throughout a glass bus shelter. It was there when I arrived for the evening and still there 5 hours later. I probably have to use the bus again at some point, but I'm not a regular user anymore. These are the types of riders like myself that your new general manager should focus on and help us get back on your system. All right, let's see if there's other people. Please raise their hands. Okay. Okay, so regarding your general manager, and this is a one that's coming from Facebook, and it says the system runs itself. All you need to do is keep it on the right path. Your workers have been abused, even in the 50th anniversary book. Okay, this is one that we actually saw once before. Okay. Okay. And so here's also one from Facebook. It says TriMet serves and should be intended to serve our city's most vulnerable populations. The new general manager should be willing to hear the concerns and critiques from these populations and will be willing to work with them to create a better TriMet. Making it a goal to go fareless by 2025, for example, would seriously help our low-income communities and our homeless population. Listen to the folks you serve, not just the folks you want to serve. That's one from Facebook. Thank you for that one. Okay, so let's see if we can find another one. We have no other questions coming in through chat. And let's see what we can find here for the folks who had come in through our community-based organizations. And this one reads, let's see. Okay. And this one says, one thing that your general manager should focus on is that the agency has been overrun by highly overpaid, bad upper managers that promote poor to bad decisions that are often detrimental and cause more issues than they resolve. Examples 4 and 5 train, type 4 and 5 trains can't be solo on their system. Our diesel bus fleet has enormous flaws, causing the bus's poorly built quality that just sit in the Columbia yard, hiding large amounts of diesel force. This is something that your general manager needs to focus on in the fleet and also the types of buses that serve customers. Okay, and so we're getting close to the end of our program, so we'll find a few more questions. Let's see if anybody is raising their hand or sending through chat. Okay. And so one thing we need to focus on here, and this is our something that's come from one of our employees. And so we'll take a look at this one. It says, our dedication to excellent customer service is what makes TriMet great. Our driver training staff is amazing, and this is mainly due to their good work. What would really help to bump our service up into the next category of awesome is if TriMet worked with the union to improve driver schedules and increase the availability of shifts that do not leave our drivers completely exhausted. This would result in friendlier drivers, fewer medical problems, and happier customer base. The percentage of runs that currently have a 12-hour spread with a break in between is unacceptable. There are always ways around this that would not break the bank. Treating drivers with basic respect would have ripple effects that could pay off in the long run. That's one from one of our TriMet employees. And let's take another one from one of our TriMet employees regarding our general manager. And it says, with the new general manager, our system has been innovative, but we have missed one very important aspect of what is truly important to our system. We need a GM that will be able to make decisions that will ensure that the people and organizations that pay through their fare or employee payroll tax are the ones we answer to regarding safety, security, and how we add to transit. We need a GM that will not bow down to the political pressures of the cities or the board of directors. Okay, let's see if we have any chat questions that have come through. He has raised hands. Okay, so we can take another one from one of our TriMet employees. And this one says, in regards to the general manager, safety is everything. That covers a lot, from COVID to system maintenance to employee safety to how people feel when they're riding. The last point goes both ways. It goes for the people who are saying transit police make them uncomfortable, and it goes for people who fear the actions of someone who is dangerous, someone who has experiencing mental health crisis, or someone who has experienced the effects of intoxicants. It's a lot to navigate and balance. Okay, and let's see. It's another one from one of our TriMet employees. And this one regarding the qualities of our general manager says that there has been a lot done, but there is a lot more to do. The new general manager needs to bring a lot of energy to this job and dedication, as well as fresh perspectives and staying up to date with current news nationally and globally. Our previous general manager did a great job with the town halls and what we call Doug's Desk emails on racial inequality and COVID-10 pandemic. The GM needs to maintain this consistent level of communication with staff and stay on message. Racial equality is a priority that benefits everyone, as well as COVID-19 is a serious health pandemic, but must be taken seriously by all. It would be nice to see a strong female in this role. Obviously, she would not be chosen due to being female, but many successful counties, businesses, agencies benefit when women are provided equal opportunities and interviews, etc. Think of New Zealand and their prime minister. This is the only county that is COVID-free, country that is COVID-free and living life as normal. I think recruitment should include candidates from both sexes. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left, and so this will be the last two comments that we take for the evening. And this one also is from one of our employees, and it says, the employee morale for frontline employees is very low and needs to be addressed. When addressing the safety of transit, safety of operators needs to be a priority for our new general manager. The issue of problem riders who are repeatedly allowed to cause issues on the bus, including assaulting operators and riders without consequence, needs to be addressed. It doesn't matter what the infrastructure looks like if the public perception is that Max and the bus are not safe to ride. This needs to be a priority for the new general manager. Bus operators need more training and support. They need to be able to have the ability to deny boarding or to ask people to get off the bus based on rider conduct or non-compliance with requirements to board and continue riding. Okay. And this will be our last comment for the evening, and then we'll send it back to Lori to close out our program. The general manager needs to know the truth about the relationship between TriMet and the union and the effects the relationship has had on the organization. TriMet's reputation of greatness mostly stems from the achievements made in the 1990s, but the agency has fallen behind technologically and has unique issues such as safety concerns due to the nature of Portland. The general manager will need to have a plan of attack to work with the mayor, the governor, the union, employees, and the public to create a better transit system. All right, well, I'll send it back to you, Lori, and you can give us your closing remarks.
All right, thank you to everyone for joining us. I'll close by saying that we do want to hear all voices, and your feedback is an important part of our general manager search process. You can find more information at our website, trimet.org/GM. There you can take the GM hiring survey, which is available in 6 languages, and you can see recordings of these listening sessions. If you have more feedback, please email us at comments@trimet.org. Again, you can go online to trimet.org/feedback or join us for the public forum at our next board meeting. The details on all these channels for communication are posted at trimet.org/GM. Thank you again for joining us and have a great evening.